The title of this class, I think this is Leadership in Practice 270.
Wow.
So it has been weekly classes for over 5 years, sharing different leadership lessons. And leadership in practice is the key. I think leadership in theory, to be honest, is a much easier topic, as it usually is a little blurry.
I am very blurry. I don't know what happened.
But the leadership, oh, there you go. No,
Thank you.
perfect.
Tom, thank
No,
you.
so
It looks like it was. You look very studious over there.
what was I saying? So leadership in practice, once again, a much more difficult topic because in practice is not so black and white. A lot of things in theory are so much easier to think about right versus wrong versus in practice, the exact thing that someone will talk about that is the right thing to do versus the wrong thing. There's always a scenario where it's completely reversed. So there's going to be every single thing I think about leadership and all the skills that human beings need to have. There's an exact place where what you believe is totally the most inappropriate, worst thing to do. And so this is the nuance of in practice that makes it very tough. And so the topic we are going to cover today, we titled it Conflict versus Choice. So I'm going to share my slide and then we have a lot in here. So I'm hoping as we go through, we're sharing some of our rough notes and we're sharing some of the different thoughts, but the topic we picked was conflict versus choice and how we unknowingly choose conflict. We tend to be conflict avoiding species in general. Conflict is not seen as a very positive thing. And I think Jeff Bezos, at one of the interviews way back, said, like, if you go back to tribal times, the person who always generated conflict, kind of one day when they go to bed at night, someone's going to just snuff them out. Where to kind of belong to a tribe was to kind of be nice and not generate conflict and be welcomed. And you're a peacemaker, you make people laugh and whatnot, versus the person always pointing out conflict would literally get killed. I mean, that's kind of how it works. And if you think of what you read in the news today and whatnot, if we're back to tribal times, I think every single person on the news would be killed, right? By the villagers, right? So, if you watch some of this, what's happening in Congress and all this stuff, and just anything in the news, in tribal times, the mass public, the villagers would kill all the people generating so much stress and conflict. So maybe you feel this way at times, but obviously we can't act on that. But in the tribal days, they would. And so this notion of how much we are wired to avoid conflict. And I'm going to go deeper into this concept of choice and what that means by choice. We're going to talk about the winning mindset as choice and what that means. But conflict versus choice, how we're not meaning to pick conflict. We're trying to, in fact, avoid conflict, but the very act we do is the same as selecting conflict. So with that sort of high level.
You're going to love this next page, guys.
So for the next page, I want.
They say you new word to the dictionary, like you learn to use it in a day. This is going to be, I don't actually know. I'm assuming this is not in the dictionary, but.
It could be. Who knows? Actually, but modern dictionary these days, the internet is the modern dictionary, right? So by the way, for those of you who've seen this, please don't answer. So it gives a chance for everyone who doesn't know this. This was the alternate title for the class, but we didn't use it, so I'm going to show it instead. And I want you to guess the meaning of this word through chat. So we'll do it in silence so everyone kind of guessed at once. So the word of the day, type into chat what you believe this word means. Remember, there could be acronyms. It could, we're not going to, whoever guesses, we could have them use the word in a sentence.
Yeah. Ooh.
Okay. It's not
spelled. Okay.
All right. So we got some guesses going in. People are typing feverishly away.
It's Tim even here. Oh, just dictating instant messages from someone who plays a victim card but is an ass.
Tim is high up there. Something was right.
What's the Tim? Like Tim Brooks?
It's a saying.
What kind of saying?
Yeah, that's a non-answer.
You don't want French as a saying.
Oh.
It has a meaning in French?
Yeah,
Oh, what does that mean in French?
It means it's a saying, but it's Dictor.
What does the saying mean?
It literally means a saying.
A saying means a saying.
Oh. Okay, I'm going to put that in.
No, that's not. In French, it
Dicton
means a saying.
Means, but it's
Dicton.
Dictom, right?
Yes.
Means. Oh,
That's
all right. So I don't know if anybody else in Indian or other, whatever languages or whatever language, if you have what that word means. Okay. Person who makes someone uncomfortable, allowing a false narrative to create a victim mentality.
Creative saying, play the victim of being a dick about it. Okay.
Okay. So we got some guesses, right?
Some good guesses.
So here is the definition of the word itself. It's a noun. A person who acts like a dick, then acts like a victim about it. Right? Okay. So keep this in mind because we're gonna conflict versus choice. We're gonna teach you how to not be a dictum, but you're gonna also see how easily we become a dictum. And it's a two-part definition. Remember, like meaning there's two parts to how you become a dictum. You're first going to be a dick, right? Then you're going to be a victim about it. So this is the portion that we're going to hopefully unpack this and teach you how to not be a dictum. Or first recognize how you are a dictum almost all the time, more unknowingly than you realize, right? So
Did you make up the word?
no, it was from the Alpha Women Club.
I found it.
So Megan found it. All right. I'm sure there's a male version of this somewhere out there too, but all right. So quick recap from LIP 268. So the first Thursday of every month, Danny teaches a class. Understand the class was amazing. All about, I don't know, different ways to cook eggs really fast and whatnot. So we take a break once a month by having Chef Danny with Tom teach you about food and different elements of food as medicine, but also just how to show off with skills of a chef on food. So having gone past that, the 2 weeks ago, we taught a class and the class was all around awareness without shame. So just quick recap. So Laura went through, and I think she just took last week's class only, or the 2 weeks ago class. You should go through other classes. Yeah. Notebook LM, I think. Is that by Microsoft or is it Google? Google. Took it and just shoved in the leadership and practice class and said, give me some memes. And it created memes. Then I took Grok and animated the memes. So there's animated versions too. But we talked about the shame blame loop, which is the shittier you make yourself feel, you will inevitably come to a place of blaming other people. So when you begin the process of making yourself feel shitty, which a lot of us have negative self-talk and anything, just recognize you're about to generate conflict with someone. And when you start to recognize that, you might actually pause, and we'll teach kind of this notion of how to pause, of stopping the process of making yourself feel shitty. Because it's an inevitable round to then go and blame someone to generate conflict with other people. And how we remember the tribal days, people who generate conflict could get killed. So if not physically, at least mentally, emotionally. So don't do that. That was one element of the class, the shame blame loop. The other element was all around how leadership is the ability to make slightly better choices faster. The word we've used before, some of our leaders have been using is better plays. There is no such thing as perfect play. There is no such thing as a perfect decision. It's all around when you're working in so much uncertainty, which is everywhere uncertainty. It's about understanding how to make better choices, better plays with speed. So it's never going to be perfect game. It's a directional game of just making more right choices faster. And how do you know if it's right or wrong? You'll never really know. But only when time passes, you will have a sense in the sum total of choices. I think I did pretty well. So that's literally the best you're going to get, but that's what judgment is about. That's what leadership is about. So think of not only the big decisions, big judgment calls, but micro and making many of them really fast. So that's kind of a new way to think of leadership. This topic is bigger, so we can probably go deeper, and it came from Amanda, who's here today with us, and she's going to teach a co-Thursday class, this idea of being the observer versus the participant, one of the hardest things to recognize is how quickly we can weave into any situation and become the participant. And then I animated this, which is even better, where like if it's like being in the boxing ring. I don't know why there's so many people, but it's like but it's like where like punches are coming at you. And so as a result of it, you literally cannot see. It's like seeing red. It's like seeing stars. You're unable to see the chessboard. And you're unable to see because everything in life, we are generally, unless we watch the news and we like to argue about politics or whatever you like to argue about, which is being the backseat driver, cheap seats to everything. Generally speaking, we are part of the game. And so we're making decisions where we're in it. But if we can't get objectivity, which is step back and see the chessboard almost as if we're not in it. You know, the best decision making always comes, okay, if it wasn't your life, if it wasn't you, what would you tell someone to do? And usually that little cue or that little prompt makes us think like an observer. Now, it's never as simple as that, but just to recognize when we are like, oh my God, I'm like so in it, it's my life, I can't see straight. And to recognize when that happens, I'm not able to make good decisions. And so that just the awareness of that is important. So I think Megan drew this really quick.
No. The only reason I don't know if it's here or not, but Charlie and I were talking last night about kind of the different tools. Ultimately, it will come down to awareness of yourself, right? I think everything in life, if you are aware of yourself, you're going to be able to navigate better. So we keep talking about awareness, but awareness is much harder. And it is a lifetime sport. Like you every day have to be aware. It's not like, oh, I was aware yesterday or last month or last year, but you have to be aware of yourself every day as things are changing so fast and moving and different things. So you need tools for awareness. So talking last night, what are the different tools we've taught over the last few weeks? There was two main ones we taught. I think 3 weeks ago is the PPF, which is the past, present, future. It's a framework to, are you triggered, or we put those little red dots? Are you seeing red? And anything that happened in that subject or in that topic on the past, present, or right now, it tells you, okay, be aware that I feel scared or I feel angry or some way to say, wait a minute, something's not right here about myself. This is how I feel. But then there's also the phases we taught last week, which is the phases that to get awareness without shame. And so Charlie talked a lot about like the beginner phase. If you recognize you're a beginner, you won't be so hard on yourself. If you're remember we said it's like the Britney Spears, not a girl, not yet a woman, somewhere in between. Like there's that in between phase where you're sort of in an awkward, phases, and then the mature phase. So that was the only reason I wanted to just kind of summarize. If you haven't been with us, there's two tools we taught in the last few weeks.
Right. So this is from 2 weeks ago. Just the awareness in many things by separating and understanding. Wait, I'm a beginner or a noob in this situation, which means me being illogical and whatnot is actually all part of being a beginner versus that whole notion of, remember the whole, if you're like kind of having that Britney moment of being in between, recognizing there's something different that shows up versus when you're in the mature phase, once again, something different shows up. And just being able to even partition situations into one of these three can help you feel like, oh, that's why I'm acting that way, get more awareness without spiraling into shame, right? The other piece Megan just talked about here is this is the slide, one of the slides from before. The PPF is thinking about any situation, past, present, future. And the idea of the red dot is this. Those dots represent you going on tilt. Now, tilt is one of those things where when you are no longer cognitively thinking straight, thinking properly, you can be in danger. And as you actually get more experience, you can still think straight. And recognizing when I cross this very thin line to I am no longer thinking straight. And I think of it very much like those of you who don't drink, maybe you can't relate with this analogy. So maybe you smoke weed. All stats, people go weed, smoke it, whatever it might be. With experience, you know when you've crossed that line. It's like, and it depends situationally. Crossing the line, driving an actual car is different than, say, driving a golf cart, or maybe just driving it from like my neighbor's house to my house is different than if I'm going to go on the highway with some children in the back seat. Like there's so many different things. I'm going to walk home, but I'm drunk, but that might be okay. Like there's all these elements, but I might not walk a tightrope across a ledge or something. There's all these elements of knowing situationally when I am too drunk or when I'm okay. Doesn't mean I'm not buzzed, but I'm okay. And so those elements, it's literally judgment over time, meaning those red dots. And the way to think about past, present, future is when your mind goes into any of those compartments. Those are the three major compartments in our head. We compartmentalize things 50% in our memories of the past, 10% kind of in the present, 40% is our future outlook or our prediction. When any of those things generate that red dot, it's basically saying you're not able to think straight. So trying to figure out what to do, it's almost like when you say, oh, I'm about to make some bad choices. I'm about to make some bad decisions. Knowing when you're in that state is the superpower. So I'm going to show you a bunch of things, and I've been using this. I just call it market data point, which is my way of saying there's some interesting stuff we saw. It's all going to come together, but I'm just going to fire off 5 different things, and then we're going to kind of tie it all together at how they make sense. So one of the first data points, uncertainty generates cortisol. So there was, I don't know if you want to share it.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember. This is, I think, last week. So yeah, the whole, sorry, I just shared the cortisol belly thing is a new thing to me. That's experiencing it. I don't like it. So I've been looking a little bit more about cortisol and what it does. But it's interesting. It's in the military world. They talk about cortisol is not stress. It's uncertainty. It is fascinating, right? Like uncertainty is actually the most taxing thing on your brain. And yet we're in chronic uncertainty, right? So that's what's spiking cortisol. So I think everybody is getting kind of that extra dose of, I can't remember what else is on here, but yeah, that idea of what's next, how long is it going to last? When's it going to stop? That's why burnout feels endless. There's no end signal, just the not knowing is what creates cortisol.
And this notion of how the military uses techniques to calm soldiers down. And the act of what they're trying to do is remove uncertainty.
Yeah.
But of course, knowing uncertainty is not really possible to remove. And so they have different techniques, but
actually, you know what's interesting about that? I think there's another thread on here that was interesting to me. They talk about a lot about having routines and habits at the end of their day, which actually closes the loop on things. Like they're actually very habit driven and discipline driven. So that's a whole piece of, they clean their weapons or whatever they're doing. They have all these like techniques, and that creates some level of certainty for them. That routine actually helps end some of that uncertainty.
One of the nuances of leadership practice we found was how you begin the day, how you end the day. If you generate healthy and good routines that occur in the beginning and the end, so bookend those two, it helps you dial down uncertainty. Think about how many times you might start the day saying, what happens today? And how you are actually, through the prompting and self-narration, generating more uncertainty, which is generating more cortisol. As you end the day, it's almost like thinking about, oh my God, I'm thinking about tomorrow, I'm thinking about this. And so the act of having these regimented routines bookended at the beginning and end of day actually is a technique the military uses to help drive down uncertainty. Remember this whole idea, the body spikes cortisol when it doesn't know what's next, how long this will last, when it can stop. And here's the reality. Welcome to all of life. All of life is this. So how do we operate in a world where you can't escape this? And so this is the new norm. And this burnout, this notion of it feels endless, feels like this end of day, beginning of morning kind of uncertainty is never going to end. So what do I do? And it's learning that it's actually a muscle. It's a new muscle that we need to build that we're not accustomed to. Market data point number 2. And this is something that is, I think, fascinating. And one of the biggest mistakes that people focus on incorrectly, I think this comes from 100 years of the industrial age where things were more certain, that awareness is 80% of the solution. Most people are like, what's the solution? What do I do? What's the fix? What's the pill? Give me the 1, 2, 3. Everyone's obsessed on thinking the solution is the answer. It is not. Awareness is 80% of the solution. The classic example that we learned from Chef Danny on food was that, fermented cabbage is the number 1 ingredient. Have 1 serving a day. It is the good bacteria that will help you fight cancer. It is a cancer preventing food. However, if you keep injecting all types of sugar, so refined sugar and all kinds of, pastries and, like pasta, rice, all the wrong places, it does not matter how much good you do, meaning the solution is completely negated by all the bad you're injecting. A lot of us, we are doing a lot of mental harm, a lot of bad. So no matter how much the solution, it's not going to make any difference. And so to recognize that, and the idea of awareness, and we taught this in one of the leadership and practice classes, awareness is actually a lower bar on one hand. You just have to notice. If you notice something, you start to slow it down. When it slows down, you start to see decision forks, as in, I can make a choice. When it goes so fast, the problem is you're like, wait, there was a choice I could have made there, A, B choice, or I could have gone to C. You don't see your options when things move fast. And so awareness is what slows it down. So I had tweeted this thing that you can't improve what you can't measure. A lot of people have heard that, which is why often when you're going to lose weight or something, you have to measure it either through belt loopholes or using a scale. But then there's a notion that you can't learn what you don't understand in the same way you can't teach what you can't explain. So these are kind of three things that are just good isms to sort of know. But I'm going to use this example, and sorry, I'm going to read what's in here. So Nokovic, it's fascinating. We actually worked and trained with a team that helped train Nokovic. Their group in New Jersey, and they helped train all the stuff. But he is the most, I think, successful tennis player of all time. Has written more Grand Slams and whatnot. So I'm just going to tell you what's on the slides here. In 2010, Nokovic was playing, he already won like number one, but he was playing this match in the Australian Open. And in the middle of it, he was staggering, vomiting, vision blurred, gasping for air. And so this is a champion that was reduced to ruins. And there was someone that was watching this. I don't know who this doctor is, Dr. Igor Tretrovekic. Sounds like similar kind of place he came from. But anyways, Serbian, I believe. But he saw something that everyone missed. And his view was Nokovic's diet is poisoning. Now, keep in mind, this guy became number one with his diet, with his culture. And Nokovic being, I think he's Serbian, or he grew up in Belgrade. And so bakeries on every corner, says fresh bread with every meal. Pizza is celebrated as life itself, which Megan and I do once a week, but he was probably doing it like 7 days a week or maybe more. Even breakfast pizza is delicious. Pizza is always good. But each meal is a family tradition. Each mouthful was sabotaging his destiny. The analysis Dr. Igor did was that his body was at war. The gluten that's hiding in his beloved bread, dairy in every traditional dish, refined sugar fueling his exhaustion. So the solution was to find a way to remove this. Now, keep in mind, this is like for Nokovic, what was extraordinary was when he started working with his doctor, he lost 5 kilos. Now, for those of you who are not from the land that uses kilos, 5 kilos is a lot of weight. It's over 10 pounds. And when you're a professional athlete that has made number one, you don't have that much weight to lose. So when you lose that kind of weight by changing your diet, people start freaking out. So his family started freaking out. Like, who is this wacko that you're listening to and you're like getting too thin? You know how moms are like, oh my God, you've lost so much weight. You look so thin. What's going on? Is it stress? Or is it Dr. Igor? Like, I mean, he's going through this process. And what Nokovic feels is like for the first time since childhood, he could breathe freely.
Yeah.
His mind clears, his energy soared. And what he didn't recognize was the very thing that he grew up with, family traditions and the Serbian diet of what's in there. And you know how like, mama's cooking and eat this and the community and all that stuff is great. But for him at his peak, this one little change dramatically changed how he operates. Now, on one hand, for those of you who are like, I see Nicole on this call was before, or people who are like, I know this stuff, right? Oh my God, like the breads and the sugar and the bad thing. If you became number one in the world, think the exact same way, and your family and what you are in the meals, why would you change that? How could you say that's wrong? Meaning it's not as easy as it might seem on the outside. Changing anything that is that normalized, that made you number one, to be able to say, wait a second, like, there's something there that I have to notice. I have to become aware of and start to recognize, how many like just pieces of, I don't know if you ever go to restaurants and the first bread basket is like pizza bread, like best restaurants in my view. So can you imagine how many times he's like, oh my God, I'm eating it before I even eat.
Yeah.
Like how many different things to start to notice enough that you can slow down, hesitate before actually stopping. And I'm talking more like a regular human being versus, professional athletes can hire a babysitter to look over your shoulder and so tap you and slap your wrist every time. And so there are ways that they may fix differently. But for most of us, we have to notice. That noticing is the hardest part of almost everything. And I cannot emphasize enough. Because then, of course, the next page, this individual, right, goes off about, let me tell you about Nokovic's morning ritual, right? Warm lemon water, and then celery juice, and look at the fresh fruit, crisp salads and stuff. And by the way, if that is all difficult, I made a pill you can take and I put it in red. And this is kind of the modern day world. I'll scare you using someone's story, and then I'll show you how complicated their stuff is, and then give you a shortcut to a pill solution. Right? So that's how we fall prey to whether it's all the wrinkle creams or the this or that and pills of this and take that supplement. Like, it's not about that. Everything, when I think of the majority of the value, comes down to 80% just recognizing the problem and the routine nature that we inject the badness into our body, into our mind on almost a consistent basis. And once you recognize it, you can slow it down, and then you can start to dial it down. And the act of doing that will get you to a place where you can then start to add solutions. And that step, almost everyone gets wrong.
Yeah, I think the notion you said, when it slows down, you see decision forks. And that's the hardest part. But if it slows down, I mean, it makes sense with food. If you know the sugar is bad, as you grab it, you're like, oh, this is bad for me. You still might do it, but you're aware of it. And eventually you'll start to slow it down. But the notion that if you just slow it down, you'll have more options, right? But noticing is the hardest part. And you said with experience, on the judgment side, put aside food for a second. On the judgment, noticing, I just went into a tilt, or I just,
which is much harder to do.
It's much harder to do.
Way harder. I'm thinking the body elements.
So
is a easier. My average math would be 1/5 or 1/6 easier than the mind. I want you to know the mind is that much harder. So like, I think of like, for example, Chef Danny taught us ice cream. What's fascinating with ice cream, he said, was that because it's cold, you can't taste how much sweetness is in it. Let ice cream melt and then take a spoonful of it when it's warm. And you're like, oh my God, this thing is disgusting. How sweet it is. But the cold numbs your mouth. But now that I know that, I still like my ice cream cold, not warm. But I didn't remember, those of you years ago, there's like, Richie Rich, Archie comics. I don't know if you ever read those. But there was one where I think it was Jugger or something, the guy, one of the characters. He thought he discovered Jughead. He discovered melted ice cream as a topping and everything.
Oh.
So it's like, he's like, if someone was about to throw a pint of ice cream, but he's like, oh my God, you can put it in coffee. You can put it on your cake. You can put it on. And I remember thinking, wow. Right now we know, right?
It's in our creamer, you know what I mean? It's melted ice cream.
But for example, I now know how bad ice cream is, so I still like ice cream. But those little bites where you have
too much.
You're eating stuff very stingily.
Yeah.
Versus I eat pizza. I mean, I can swallow a slice in 2 bites, but I know it's still bad, but ice cream I eat as if I'm I should take tiny little scoops as if it's a taste, and then it's as opposed to when you're a kid, you're just remember the baby commercial where the baby has ice cream for the first time? Oh. And he just attacks it with both.
It's not a commercial, it's a video.
It's a video, yes.
Online. Yeah, it just grabs it.
We digress. But,
okay.
Nonetheless, ice cream's not good for you, so eat it in small doses. Market data number 3. This is what's interesting, and there's a lot of talk on this topic coming out. There's a huge article that spread through, this guy Matt Schumer wrote this thing about the next big thing happening, AI. I mean, there's nonstop talk about AI, just destroying jobs, destroying everything and whatnot. And to recognize there are 2 different types of decision making. There's logical, analytical decision making, which is different than judgment. Judgment being visceral. It's a human being that applies judgment. It's a computer that can help make decisions. So I'm going to explain this because there's an interesting data point. I don't know if you've seen this. Did you know that the human brain uses 12 watts to think while an AI system doing the exact same thinking would need 2.7 billion watts. So you look at that and you think about right now how much Google, Amazon, I mean, the amount of money they're spending to build in 2026. In fact, I think, we're talking almost 200 billion per company, capital expenditure, 3-4 times even last year, which is a huge number, to build data centers, and they need power. So I think Elon Musk is trying to build it on space and on the moon. I mean, the amount of power that is being consumed just to run AI. And the dirty secret is all the AI companies are losing money because the amount of power it takes to run just your query, your little prompt, is way more than they can charge you. Yeah. And so what's happening, and of course, it's computing through more data exponentially. So it's like, while it gets faster, the amount of data is growing even faster, and it has to compute. That to me is decision making. If you think of the old, remember the whole adage, think before you speak, right? That's decision making. Analyze all the thoughts. I mean, you think about even we have this month of Valentine's and love and whatnot, the whole pros and cons list. Make a pros and cons list before you decide what to do. That notion of decision making, which is different than judgment. That, this millionaire matchmaker would always say on TV, Patty Stenger or something, two people, you're trying to pick who you like more. Okay, close your eyes. You're in an elevator. Who's there with you, right? If you're stuck in an elevator, imagine being stuck in an elevator or a car for 10 hours, right? Who's there with you versus who's not? Or you flip heads and tails, right? Who should I date? Who should I be with? And then you flip the coin. And then before they show you what the result is, what do you wish it was? Mm-hmm. That's judgment. Right. How rapidly we're actually making that decision. 12 watts. I mean, you can do the math. 12 watts versus 2.7 billion. It's a completely different way to think. And this is one of the arguments that comes up. It's the same thing here, that people think about. Well, which one's stronger? Is AI stronger or the human brain? And my reaction is no, dum-dum, both. Why wouldn't you use both? They're both incredibly powerful in different ways. And when both get combined is where the power comes. Because the human brain is able to do what AI takes 2.7 billion watts it has to burn through in 12 watts. It's a tiny milli fraction. Right. This is interesting. Judgment and human judgment is something that I think is going to become more and more important. But human judgment is actually, people say, so how do I get better at judgment, or what's the judgment I should have, or this notion of authentic. You know how many people ask, so how do I become more authentic? See, that question alone is inauthentic. You're asking for the instructions of how to be authentic. And judgment and authentic and being yourself is the same thing. So last week, first Thursday, we brought 4 speakers out of our community. They wrote different books, they did different things, and they're 4 completely different people. One was, they give 10-minute style, I think it took much longer than 10, but 10-minute style, TED Talks on different topics of how to connect with people better. One was a conversation specialist, a neuroscientist, a podcaster around storytelling. And the person, to be honest, I was most impressed with was Amy at the bottom. This woman for, I think, 23 years has become this top matchmaker. She's matchmaking for billionaires. And it's just, I can explain to you later why I was most impressed with her. But in this group, Dr. Roshanek, I was taking different notes. I just took a page out of my notes, and it was talking about presence versus performance. This whole notion of when you meet someone, and that instant judgment of I like them or I don't. And what ends up happening is when you don't like them, it's because they're focused on performance. When you meet someone and they're having a performative conversation, they're trying to impress you, whether it's jargon or who they know or how much, show you my watch. And so look at the time, just everything just kind of when you're ugh, right? Versus presence is about being authentic, about being yourself. And then this acronym I did not know until now, DGAF, and I keep saying it in the wrong way, but DGAF is, it's kind of used as an acronym. I don't know if those of you who know it, this group might be a little bit older.
Put it into the chat. You can tell you want to. What do you guys
do?
Do you know what it is?
What is DGAF? stand for?
Come on, Terry, Richie, Brian, come on. I mean, you guys know. Wei knows it, I think. Don't say it.
Yeah, once again, if you know it,
Simon,
don't put it in. Otherwise, like,
Olivia,
not
Katie, come
playing
on.
the game.
DGAF. Take a guess.
Take a guess what DGAF is.
It's a hard one if you really have no idea. It's like, what do you, DGAF? It's 4 letters, so it's a harder one. Any ideas?
Don't go all fake. Okay, yeah, no, so I think some people know it. Don't
Guys are
go all
good.
fake. Aruna, do you really not know it, or are you just making that? No, don't go all fake. Okay, that's like one of those innocent guesses. You would make a great school teacher, but don't go all fake. It's this vibe of don't give a fuck. Right? This is an adult class, so that's literally that notion. And of the 4 speakers, the one individual who had that most was Amy. And it's fascinating because at the end of the night, I had a chance to talk to Amy, and I said, Amy, like, you know what I love about you? I was like, you have such a don't give a fuck vibe. And she just started laughing and got all bright red and couldn't stop laughing. And there's a notion of as you become and rep being more authentic, being yourself, you can get to a place where you actually build DGAF vibes, right? I think it's DGAF. Actually, Matthew, do you know what DGAF means?
Oh my God, hi. You know what DGAF stands for? This is my 16-year-old who doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, he's totally lying. You see that? Like,
No? Okay.
no, that's
Okay.
not true.
But you know what the other
exactly what it means.
acronyms are.
Yes. No,
This is a tough one. Wait till you hear it.
no.
Don't
No.
give a fuck. That's what it is.
No, sorry. That was a child. Sorry, that was a little kid.
But he's sorry. I have a household of.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't do that around my children, just so you know.
I do, and they're very much adjusted.
No. 2 different forks, 2 different types of parenting.
Yeah, no, my kids are great. Well adjusted.
No, my kids are like, like I think actually one of the funnier conversations with my CEO, who's Olivia, my 12-year-old, was she believes like the F word, right? Fucking is a bad word, but fuck is not. I was like, huh. I was like, how to correct that one?
Yeah,
Because one is the action of it. That's what's bad. The just saying fuck is not a bad thing. So I was like, wow, I don't know where you got that, but that's a weird.
Hey, that confusion.
Yeah, no, I just let that stay because at least no, but so 50% of it was good. So I was like, I let it be. But okay. Last data point before we go into the class. The old teaming is wrong. It's flat out wrong. And I can't tell you how important this is because we have so many old ways and old norms and routines and rituals and how we think of people, communication, relationship building, trust building, running, like organized anything that we don't even recognize this massive disruption that's occurring, which occurs every 100 years. So I won't overdo that part, but old teaming, wrong, broken. So I'm just going to show you my rough notes and apologize for sort of the rough handwriting, but I think of old teaming, this diagram right in the middle. I put 1 and 2, those like necklaces, if you're like, you buy the whole best friend necklace, right? It's like 2 halves, so you're walking around with 1 half. There's a version, by the way, that's 3, which is very unstable. But the 3-person version, I think, is very unstable. So we've done work, so do not buy that one. But there's a 2-person version. But this is the version of old teaming. One of the ways of great teams is you have great division of work with very little overlap, right? I mean, I know the classic, spouse or couples do the I'll cook, you clean, right? No overlap, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a notion of like kind of division of work. So when you can see the work, you divide it as one thing. But I think the greater piece that we don't think about much is the division of mindset. Meaning the old teaming is if you're a risk taker, my job is to be a risk manager. If you're an optimist, my job is to be a pessimist. If you want to spend, I want to focus on saving. If you're speaking, my job is to then listen. That is the definition of old teaming. And so as a result, when you play this forward, a teammate is usually, without even realizing, actively looking for what the other teammate is doing wrong. Teammate number 2 might think, whoever says or acts first, then my job is just to actively look at what is my teammate screwing up? What is my teammate missing? Right? That is very classic. I can't emphasize enough. That is a fucked up, broken model. and hope you start seeing how many places that exists and how you will pay the price dearly if you keep applying that model. But at the same time, don't feel shame because everyone's doing this. So, but if you do it after today, kind of shame on you, right? Ice cream, the pizza, if you overdo it now. This is what new teaming looks like. And so CKMM is Megan and myself. I just kind of drew a diagram to explain. Imagine 3 different situations, and oftentimes they all happen at the same time. We're each looking at the 3 different situations. And then what you're seeing below, and for those of you who've been around leadership and practice, is a thing called ladders of inference. The ladders of inference, if I pick one diagram on the left, is a blob of information, which is a situation. And then it's like building a ladder going up. So in this case, if you think the left side is CK and the right side is MM, the ladder has 3 steps. The first thing to do at the very top is your judgment. Is it good or bad? Is it like something that is it good, bad?
Good thing, bad thing.
Good thing, bad thing is a great way to think of just kind of how quickly judgment applies. And to be able to expose your conclusion, which is your judgment. But then this is where most people stop. The real value is building the muscle to then explain what's underneath and explain it rapidly. I think it's good because of, and then here are the assumptions and the data points I'm picking up, and here's my mental model or my logic. So the whole notion of think of data or information and logic combined generate judgment. But judgment, 12 watts. It's happening so damn fast. We often don't know. It's almost like so split-second judgment. And then you have to start exposing and digging into your mind in the nuances of what's in there. And when both people do that, the key is in every situation, both people want to share their judgment and then want to share what's underneath it. And the underneath is where most of the time should be spent. Now, I wrote this note because a lot of people think, well, if I say my judgment, then I'm stuck to it. So I'm not allowed to change my mind without sounding like I have no spine, no backbone. No, there's a guy who years ago said this to me. When I get new information, right, I change my mind. I change my opinion. What the hell do? You don't need to be a dum-dum and act like, okay, I saw all this. Now I'm just going to stick to my opinion because I stuck to it from the beginning. No, the notion of how fast information and things are moving, once you actually expose your judgment and the reasons behind it, and say Megan then exposes, this is where teaming is powerful. Both are supposed to focus on what is right. Meaning it's not one person's job to expose what they think is right, and the other person's job is just to tear that person's opinion apart. That's not what good teaming is. 2 people both share, and it's amazing as soon as you hear your own words and the logic behind it, sometimes you're like, oh, that sounds a little different than I thought in my head. Mm-hmm. Or you hear someone else's and you're like, I can totally see things we missed. And so then you have your second iteration of judgment and logic sharing. The back and forth of this will lead to the best decision. And you're doing this for every situation. That is the new team. Not the division of mindset, division of work. Like that's the old teaming. So don't fall for that. That's the worst way to team. Okay, main lesson. And there's 2 parts because you're going to see the complete opposite points, which is exactly what leadership and practice is. So I'm going to talk about conflict. And I'm going to talk about how in any situation you can say yes, you can also say no. But the easiest choice is to pick maybe. Think of the world today in uncertainty. With uncertainty, it means that you cannot be criticized by saying, I don't know, or I'm not sure yet. If you say maybe, you will avoid almost all criticism because you could be right. You could be wrong too, but you could be right. Maybe is saying, I'm undecided. I can go yes, no, but not yet. And so the easiest, safest thing to avoid conflict is to pick maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. Let me think about it. Let me come back to you on almost every single topic that exists. Now,
that's very profound, right? If you think about that, right? Like the easiest thing to do to avoid conflict is just have everything be an I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just so much easier to say, I don't know.
I'm not sure yet.
About it. Let me sleep on it. Let me think about it. I don't know.
Because it sounds like responsible. You're not snap judgment, right? remember the data point of the cortisol, right? Uncertainty. When you say maybe to everything, you're keeping it nice and fuzzy.
Yeah.
What is fuzzy? It's like taking one of those pens and you're just doing a cortisol injection right into your heart, right? So every time you do that, in every topic, think about, boom, I'm just cortisol injecting myself and I'm wondering why my cortisol belly keeps growing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because you're doing that,
Yeah.
right?
And somebody does it to you too.
And then someone does it to you. And also, once someone starts, you sound like the irrational, like not thinking straight person by having an opinion. Meaning the maybe can quickly get celebrated as the most popular answer. And if you're off base of it, then you're just kind of like not a thoughtful person. And it makes you sound open-minded. And so here's the flip side. So I'm not going to go in this one detail. There's a lot more out there. Jensen, from NVIDIA CEO saying, look, technical intelligence has become a commodity. So every hard technical problem is now, you can't get paid for it because AI is just doing it faster. So the new intelligence is connected really to human judgment, human intuition, and this same theme is showing up everywhere. So you can look this up too, but not as interesting, but it's just kind of the norm now. So Megan, do you want to explain this slide? Megan drew this.
I was going to say, Tone just put something into the chat I wanted to read.
Oh, okay.
Related. No,
we can read it.
Tone was saying in team sports, the focus is on finding ways to complement each other in skills, emotional support, and decision making. And Greg said this is such a difficult, important topic. It's very difficult to get self-aware, all the little ways we keep it fuzzy. Yeah, but maybe it's breaking it down, Charlie, in terms of the fuzzy. And maybe we're going to get to this. I can't quite remember some of the flow of it, but like leaving it fuzzy, I think we're going to get to that, right? Like how do you we have props for that too. We actually have an interesting prop. Okay, what am I showing?
Well, you drew this.
Yeah, but you're going to add the components to it. You can, I mean, this. So here's the way. So I drew this because if you look at the left, triangle. This is the way I think, and I do this a lot. And so this is like one of I think the biggest challenges of how we're trained for decision making and thinking is that we're going to build up our decision. Like what's our choice? What do we think? It's a good thing, bad thing. We're going to build it up from the bottom. So I wrote, it is not about building up from the bottom, but this is what we do, which is see those little green and red boxes. I think it's very logical, right? We're going to win in this. Well, there's some good things and there's some bad things. So I'm constantly trying to weigh out every day, good thing, bad thing. Okay, the score needs to be a 10 to win. I'm like, I think we're at 4 good, 6 bad. So I think bad, we're going to lose. Or I think, we have 7 good things, actually 3 bad. So now I think we're going to win, right? But it's almost like it's changing every day, which is keeping it uncertain. And I'm trying to build it up from the bottom. But as a result of that, all those little question marks, now I'm kind of in that undecided that we called it the D a few weeks ago, the decision. Like it's just in the maybe, it's in the I don't know, but I think it's good today. Tomorrow it could be bad, but it's this constant kind of hand wringing. Versus on the right, if you think about it more like you have a judgment, what Charlie's talking about, you have a visceral thought. Is it good or bad? You actually have it. And I think we don't share it always because we feel this could create conflict and all the different reasons. Maybe we're just not muscled at it. But when you actually do have a judgment. It's good or it's bad. Anyway, so that's the wrong way to do it is on the left side. I think the right way is to say, I believe we're going to win. And then you're looking for things that, are green that you can amplify, the things that are bad, like the red, you're looking to maybe, leave a few bad, but like you're working on the other ones and you're kind of, trying to stop some of the bad halfway through. Some of these little data points I put on here is just trying to stop some of the bad with speed. And adding more green. There's a different mindset when you believe you're going to win. And this is not manifestation. This is not just believe it, you'll make it happen. It's actually doing the work to make it happen, but it's a totally different mindset than keeping it kind of in that I don't know.
There's a couple subtleties. It's fascinating, by the way. You slipped. You need 10 to win. Meaning that's a perfect score. I would say my view is you need 6 to win. You just need, and winning is not even just kind of once. You just need to keep moving and adding more green and stopping the reds that matter. And some you can just leave alone. Danny always would say, even on the physical body, why the 10% bad? A healthy human body has 10% bad bacteria. And the bad bacteria is what trains and keeps the good bacteria in shape. So we need germs and diseases, which is why I go play in the dirt and, like they say, like use your hands and like stop using hand sanitizer. Yeah. Bad bacteria actually trains us to be stronger. And so this notion of there are many things you can leave alone. I don't know if directionally the same body to mind, it's 10%. You don't need to fix all problems.
Charlie, Arun is asking, why is it important to arrive at decisions fast versus the time it naturally needs to take? Like, this is a good question. And then I think there's somebody else who had a question, Caitlin, if you want to put it in the chat,
sure.
maybe. But why is it important? Why is it important to arrive at a decision fast versus it? It is a good question, right?
So
why?
Well, so I'll before we get to that, I'll say the idea of judgment is 12 watts. Think of how fast that is. You already have a split-second judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are two things on this when I said the choice. One is first understanding what is my default judgment. Mm-hmm. And most of us don't you actually convince yourself, I don't have one.
Right.
No, but you know. I was saying if someone walks up the stairs right here, before they even fully walk up and even open their mouth, each of us will have a like them, don't like them. Like it's so much faster. Now the weight of it might be like, I don't like them, but it's like a tiny bit don't like, or it's a tiny bit like.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they open their mouth, you're like, I like them a lot. Or you'll be like, I like them less. But it moves. But you'll see with every data point, we have judgment. That is, by the way, different. You have to understand your default judgment to learning the skills to be able to choose what you're going to do. I'm going to win here. Or this, I'm going to, you can actually approach someone and say to yourself, I'm going to be interested in them. How could you possibly know? You don't even know who they are. You can literally make a choice. And that is a rep muscle. And we'll talk about that more. So this notion of first, you have to realize it's not about making a decision fast. Right. The 12 watts, the human mind already does it. And then we think, oh, well, I'm going to act like a computer and I'm going to calculate my pros and cons list and come to a decision at some point. And what you're finding is that's making decisions like that, that's happening faster with AI at such a extreme level and more thoroughly. Your pros and cons list will never match up to what AI is doing. But if you start to use your judgment, you have a power that AI will never have. AI will never get to a place where it can do it in 12 watts. So recognizing what I am pulling up is different. It is sometimes you can help each other. And so the notion of, so first realizing you have it. And then the realization of with muscle, you can build things where you can choose. I'm going to choose to win here. That's what a lot of people will do in startups or places. I'm going to choose to win here. I mean, parents, when you have your child, you may not like what comes out. You may not like how they're growing up, but you choose to actually love your child and you choose to help them become better human beings, no matter the challenge. As opposed to you're like, well, maybe I can put this one up for adoption and try again. Yeah. Right? You wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You make a choice and to recognize we do it in these narrow fields, but to recognize I can learn the skill to do that exact same choice making. And then why speed matters? Because when we said leadership is about making better choices really fast, right? It's the sum total of better choices. When you recognize it's a muscle, it's a human skill to make that choice and then to work to generate more green dots. Some red you will stop. Many you might even just leave alone because you can win without having to turn all the reds into green. But the recognition on the flip side, before you go to the solution, is we do the left side. We pick maybe. And so what does maybe do? It actually makes us sick.
Yeah. So actually on the next page, this is so good actually, because I was just thinking of one of your question is so good. I was trying to think of like how to organize my thinking around it. And I was like, oh, I think I created a slide for it, but it's not quite exact. But the timing of it, I think there's two reasons why getting to a decision fast, as in not a decision, but your judgment, doesn't mean you have to act on it. I think a decision is you have to go and act on it. Your judgment, right? Your own judgment is honing your intuition. That's what we're saying. We're saying your judgment is your intuition. So I think there's two reasons. Number one, your intuition, honing it is good for you. Like being able to, have better judgment. That's a kind of like an obvious thing, but it does reduce the cortisol. I think that's the interesting thing that Charlie's talking about, which is when everything is left in the I don't know, the recognition that we're leaving it so fuzzy and we're sort of keeping more things there is what's creating the cortisol, which is actually going to make us sick and kill you kind of stuff. But, and then I think the second part, I was thinking, and I didn't write it here, is that that you're going to get feedback from other people. And I think that on your judgment, and I think I think sometimes we don't want it. It's like, well, I haven't thought through it fully yet. But how else are you going to hone your intuition, your judgment, if you don't share it, right? And you share it and you might not like what you hear, but you're like, there'd be some really helpful data in there that you might not otherwise get if you didn't share that visceral judgment.
So
right?
I'll give you a flip side example. Those of you who are overusing ChatGPT or any other AI tool or Google searching, do you really need to get feedback on what you searched? Meaning, like, do you really need to go and battle ChatGPT against ChatGPT? Like, which is what a lot of us do. When you regurgitate and repeat, like the stuff that came out, like, no, I can access that too. I don't need you to act like Google search or ChatGPT for me. But I want to know your judgment. I want to know what your 12 watts did and the reasons behind it. I want you to dig in there. Not like, well, here's what I think. I'm like, no, but that was ChatGPT. I read that same video. I read the same article, and people are just repeating that, which is not the best way for human beings to brainstorm.
What was he saying about how it goes wrong?
So hypervigilance.
Yeah.
So I want you to think what's happening. When you keep things in the maybe, I'm still deciding, you are hypervigilance. You are
scanning for danger.
You are scanning for the red. And I'll touch on a much messier slide. We found this a lot in the data. The human mind, right? We are wired going back to the tribal days that, and I think actually it was Amanda who said that your brain isn't wired to help you celebrate and succeed. It's wired to just help you live, which means red dots equals death. So every red dot you find is not a red dot. It's a 3xer, a 5xer, maybe a 10xer. And if you're actually much more negative, it could even be a 100xer. So you're not actually even making a proper pros and cons list. You are massively overweighting the red. And if you're scanning for it, you can also find more of it. Right? You're going to find more and find more. And so then instead of actually, I haven't made a decision yet, all you're doing is predicting. And remember the whole PPF, the past, present, future, you're predicting doom and you're just waiting for doom and the train wreck that's about to occur. And what do you do if a train wreck's about to occur? Brace for impact. So you're spending time bracing for impact. And this thing, it's like, what the hell's going on? Why do I feel so fat belly, cortisol belly, sick, like whatever, like bad mood, all the stuff, this notion of the choice of maybe, which in the short term avoids criticism, avoids conflict. It sounds like the smartest person in the room is being open-minded and saying, maybe, I don't know yet. It's actually leading to much worse. There's a slight nuance I wanted to share really quick. Remember the class we taught about decision D? I don't know if you remember that. And some of you who loved that class and maybe overdid it, kind of forgot the key part I did put in here. Decision D is an elite skill. Most of us don't have it. And that was the whole helpful, hurtful, park it, indecision. And so this messy slide here, decision D, is kind of the worst in the middle. I only share this really quick, only because we pick this indecision way too often, haphazardly, when you don't have the skills to do it right. And what you're doing instead is injecting cortisol. You're injecting more uncertainty, and then you're scanning with a hypervigilance for like, what is wrong? What is going to kill me? What is the danger? This is the version I wrote on top of Megan's. And we started going into it saying, look, a no is no, a yes is a yes. It's the maybe that can actually be most dangerous. And oftentimes the person on the left, they actually, I'm just being realistic, which by the way is an insult to the person on the right saying they're crazy, right? You meet those people who seem optimistic, and I'm not talking about the blind, dumb optimism. That exists, right? Like ignorance and fire is a real thing. And you find people who get lucky, ignorance and fire. There are people I have met who have pumped their life savings into a slot machine and happen to win the jackpot. And they're like talking about that's how you do it, right? I look at those people like ignorance and fire. They took a bath in gasoline and lit a match and said, you know what? It kind of worked out. Not for the average person. Ignorance and fire is kind of what we tend to look at and saying, I'm being realistic by looking at the pros and cons and negative. And that one's crazy. Take those outlier data points out. Stockdale Paradox is one of the greatest, but also most misunderstood frameworks for leadership. It was an admiral that came out of the Vietnam War, leading all these prisoners of war. And Stockdale Paradox has two parts. One is belief, and belief, the choice. I'm going to win. I'm going to like this person. Do you ever have that, I'm going to like this person? You just met them. Well, that's what we do to children, right? When you have, I'm going to like this person. That literally is a choice, and you might feel like I have no choice.
I never thought of that people the choice. We always said, like, we all have a skill in an area that we've just decided I'm going to make the choice to make this work. But I never thought about it with kids. It's so true.
But we do it on who we meet, right? Or the who in our lives.
Yeah.
We also do it on projects. We do it on situations.
Yeah.
You can choose and build this muscle of saying, I'm going to win here. And so people are like, how can you know when you don't know if you're going to win? Because I'm going to make it so. So this is the speed of decision making, the judgment. I'm gonna win here, and I am gonna spend time moving fast, generating more green. So while you're still thinking, maybe I'm looking for these hyper vigilant boxes of 3x, 10x reds, I'm going and generating green. I'm seeing the red, just fix it right away, relieve some, and you just keep moving. And that, by the way, is probably one we're talking about skills transference.
Yeah.
One of the greatest skills we don't have as a human species right now, muscled in us, is this choice-making skill. I am going to win here. I am going to like and make good of this person. That skill, as opposed to, well, jury's out. I'm not quite sure if I like this person or not. I'm just going to keep evaluating. And of course, what you're going to see with uncertainty, there's a lot of bad. And then you're going to keep confirmation biasing, picking bad, magnifying it, when you could have actually made more green things happen. And so this notion of that skills transference, we do it very narrowly on maybe the topic of cooking or fitness, or like maybe you consider yourself a social media expert of just reading cat videos really well fast. Whatever you think you're expert in, you might actually have the skill. Like I was saying, like if you're into fitness, like no matter what the exercise you go into, okay, I'm going to learn that. You try it and maybe you pull a muscle, instead of like, oh, hell no, not for me. You kind of go back at it. Why is it in certain places we have that, we call it self-driven mindset of just keep plugging away and figuring it out, I'm going to win. But then you go to other areas and you're like, well, I'm just a beginner, virgin, whatever this topic. So then you have a bad experience. You're like, well, I don't like it. I'm not passionate. I'm not this. You come up with every narrative to actually convince yourself of no, or this is the danger, much worse. I'm just in decision kind of maybe mode. I'm still evaluating. I'm evaluating if I like, cooking or not. I'm evaluating, I don't know, like like if you like kombucha, if I like this, if I like this person. And that notion of evaluating, like people say kombucha has a lot of sugar. Oh my God, 3x right there. Then you keep going. You're like, oh, like, but having.
I'm just saying this Stockdale Paradox. Can I just go back to that? Because I feel like you guys all following that. We've shared that before. I feel like this part has always been a little misunderstood at least from my end.
This is the bottom right of the
for
page,
you guys.
right?
Yeah, I didn't read what it says right now, but we've talked about this, right? This is the Vietnam general that prevailed. Admiral, and this idea that you have to believe you're going to get out, but you have to know, grounded in reality, that it's going to be very difficult.
Can I give you a nuance?
Yeah.
It was less about believing he'll get out of prison.
Okay.
It was a little different. It was more that this will be the defining moment of my life. This experience, the hardship of being a prisoner of war in Vietnam, he believed would become the most important experience of his life. And even that tone, the way I said it, wasn't like the most important experience before I died. It wasn't dun, dun, dun. It was literally like saying, this is the Harvard of Harvard or Stanford, whatever school you like, Oxford, education of my life. That notion of positive outcome, ultimately, whenever that might be. And this is the but the willingness to face reality, the willingness to understand the reality and the details of what's happened. It's a tough world out there. It's a tough situation. I am not asking you to put on Central Park horse kind of blinders. I'm not asking you to live in a bubble. I'm not asking you to kind of like, oh, I think about everything's good, nothing is bad. No, there's a lot of assholes out there. There's a lot of bad. There's more danger around us than everything, which is why everyone's freaking out. So you can understand reality and build a muscle to also hold belief in a positive outcome. And that positive outcome, I almost hate that word because it sounds so foofy. I'm talking about like ultimate, I'm going to prevail. Like I put up there, I'm going to make it work.
Yeah.
I am going to commit and make this work, this project, make this relationship work. I'm going to make this child a great human being. That's a choice. And that choice done repeatedly actually is a muscle you get stronger. And you start to realize, well, before I get to that, making that choice, I first have to realize I am putting cortisol injections straight in my body all the time, thinking the right answer instinctively is maybe. Not yet. I'm thinking about it, evaluating still evaluating. How about now? Still evaluating. How about next week? Still evaluating. And I have more data points. And then if someone says, well, how's your evaluation so far? I can give you some green. I can give you some red, right? Doesn't work out so well.
Yeah.
And so this is coming back to dictum. So when you do that, you will be a dictum. And this is how you will be a dictum. And this is interesting. Logical weighting versus emotional weighting. When you explain your list, especially in uncertainty with a pro and con, red and green list, logically, it's not going to actually add up in the same way it might be adding up for you emotionally. And why I say you're going to be a dick first, and I put tone, not tone, his name, but the tone that you speak, right? Do you know how many times you hear someone speak and they sound like very calm? Right? There's some good things, here's some bad things, and they sound like they're calmly evaluating something, like they're being logical weighting. But you know something's wrong based on the next things they say and do and whatnot, because logical weighting and emotional weighting are not the same things. Like I said, on the red boxes, you might be weighting at 3x, 5x, 10x. And if you are more of a negative spiring, negative Nelly, you're weighting it way higher. So although on a list, when you say it, it sounds like you got like 6 things good and 4 things bad. Sounds more good than bad. Like someone else may react that way and you're going to have to act like, okay, that's the case. But why you're going to be a dick is because you're not going to be truly authentic. Truly authentic would be like, okay, but you know what I'm thinking is this is really bad, right? The bad is bad enough that I think it's like really bad, as opposed to we try to act calm and logical. And then you realize somehow either being called out or yourself that that's not true. So there's a difference in weighting. So then comes the emotional weighting where you say, you know what? Well, I'm just scared or I'm just frustrated. So now we're letting ourselves off the hook from being a dick. And so you become a dictum in the process. Maybe that doesn't quite sound easy to understand. I put over there up above the very top, being open-minded. And then you leave it nice and fuzzy. And I wrote injecting cortisol shots. So we'll come back to this if you need to more. But I do believe the average individual is doing dictum reps all the time, everywhere. And we're kind of flip-flopping between trying to when you explain yourself, you sound logical, but human beings can sense when something is wrong in the tone, which is your vibe and your energy. You sound calm, but something's not quite right. Or like you sound, something is not authentically matching up, and that's the emotional weighting. And then when you get discovered in the emotional weighting is when you act like a victim, right? Almost as if you're entitled to have done what you just did. So dictum happens a lot. So, which goes to the total flip side lesson. And we have some props to help those coming in person. Cinch it. So this is where you don't want to leave things fuzzy, right? All that stuff. But then there are places where you want to actually stop your thinking. And so how do you build a separate muscle of saying no? Like, don't finish a thought. Don't finish your.
For instance, on this is such a tricky thought because we haven't introduced this really yet, have we? We did like notice it, but like you read an email and you're thinking, oh God, and your mind starts running as you're reading it. If you think it's putting you on tilt, some kind of emotion, fear, anger, whatever it might be, stop reading it and stop thinking about it. I think that's a very hard thing to do in practice. Stop reading it before you go too far, saying this already is making, and this comes with experience, this is already making me feel some way, which is putting my brain into a, not thinking mode. I'm not feeling logical. I'm feeling emotional, whatever you want to call it, not good brain. To actually stop yourself and say, stop reading it. Don't finish it. Then you have to distract yourself, which that's kind of another piece at the end. I'll share with you one way to kind of help to distract. But the first lesson was first stop.
Remember the awareness. Remember the whole thing with awareness. Like I said, the ice cream, put a spoonful, and then I like don't do with the baby with both hands going and eating the whole thing. The notion of cinching, stopping. And it's almost a mental version of physically just cinch it, stop it. Like running your thoughts can actually generate, and we learned this actually in children education experts, how like when you play something negative, it is as if you're experiencing it right now, including distorting the past. You can distort past memories by playing a movie and it keeps summing up. I was like, oh my God, that was the worst experience of my life, when in reality, it might not have been. So this notion of what you can do is generating a monster in the process and how to stop it. So I'm going to refer to if you watch Trevor Noah, right? Yeah. So we had done this, and I didn't know where we had this little prop, but so way back in not way back, a couple of years ago, we do these Secret Santa, like stocking stuffers. So after seeing this Trevor Noah thing, I thought, if you ever watch this, there was a whole skit he did about how the vagina is so powerful and the penis is so weak, right? So the whole message was, don't be a penis. So the way he explains it, the vagina, it like opens up, births a human being. It can like literally just get like forced on.
Strong.
Bang them, force, and all good. Strong. Penis, totally opposite, right? He's like, you see a penis and it just hit it in the top and it just like falls apart. Like this notion of it's so sensitive, it's so weak. Like the vagina you can hit totally fine. Penis, boom, on top, like just whittles down. So what I had done, and so we had a whole theme in that window. Don't be a penis, right? So like everyone, be a vagina, don't be a penis.
I found them, but I didn't have the courage to buy them.
So I have this. Oh yeah. So for those of you who want camera, so this is the prop. I was like, oh, that's a great stocking stuffer, right? Wow. It's a little penis. I mean, it's got veins, but it's got like a cute little bud. It's got the hole on top. I mean, this is like a little squishy doll penis. Okay. So somehow this came back into our life recently. So it is
and put it in a plastic bag because it was getting dirty. Nobody wants a dirty penis.
Nobody wants a dirty penis.
Yes.
No. So for those of you,
cut this off then.
No. This is leadership lesson.
We don't have to put this later.
So we have swag for those. Okay.
And I will tell you that I bought them, and Charlie he was like, "I go cheaper." The $6 ones looked exactly like this. The $5.39 ones, they're much pinker, so they're girl penises.
So I don't know why they suddenly made them a little bit bigger and a little bit more pink.
I don't know.
But so for those of you in person and leadership in practice, it's only $1 a penis. So this is like really cheap. If you can order yourself on Amazon, $1 a dick, right? So don't be addicted, but $1 a dick. But I'll tell you why this is important. So every time like I see Megan is about to run off in the negative thought, they like cinch it.
So look at she's like this, like cinch it. I'm like, I'm trying to learn to like stop. I have a lot of negative rumination. So, I'm trying to learn to like just stop.
So we have.
So he's like, Megan, get your penis off.
Cinch it.
So cinch it. So if you're here in person, you gotta dick them. You gotta
think of this. You don't get a dictum.
You don't get a dictum. You are a dictum.
You are a dictum. Let's accept that. But you're going to get a little soft doll penis that you can literally cinch it. The key is this.
It's a finger. You can see that in my.
It is a finger puppet.
Finger in it. So now it's like we heard about Charlie learned the loss of virginity. Now we're talking about this. It's not usually what we do in this class, but
leadership is a difficult topic.
It's a rough month. It's a depressing month. You kind of have to kind of lighten it up a little bit.
Okay. So cinch it. Think about fear-based, frustration-based. How do you know when you cross the line? It's like being too drunk. Situationally, it's also different. We found generally it's one of these two things that will just put someone out. Meaning your mind just goes dum-dum, right? Recognizing is for me, is my weakness more fear-based or is it frustration-based? And once you cross that line, you are no good. And at that point, the more you try to explain and think and whatnot, you'll see the worse it gets. And then the worse it gets, you can't recover, you can't pull back what you said. And then now you go into spirals of shame and they remember what you said. And in that moment, having the skill to just cinch it. And so that is a completely different skill than the whole maybe side. It's like literally stop the thought. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's gone from the maybe to the no. Mm-hmm. It's a rep skill to cinch it. So you put a whole bunch
of... So we don't have a lot of time, but I don't know if you want to go into all this. But I'll just give, maybe next week we can go a little bit deeper into it. So been working on kind of a list of the different ways of sort of like I said, different forms of negative, but this mental immune system, the amount of reflexes we have, like, and think about it in this notion of like being more aware and noticing the things that you do that are adding to the cortisol that are just not helping you. I guess maybe it's like those little red boxes, right? Like how, how quickly that happens, how quickly we can just turn something into that 3x red box. So there's different ways that's happening, a lot more than I thought. So I'm trying to think about what those are, and if you can figure out the root ones that you do more often, you can start to work on those. You learn to notice them and how just so many different forms of it. So passive aggressiveness. That's also, right? That's another form, performance anxiety, right? What did I write in here? I can't even read, you guys. I need glasses close and far now. My eyes are fucking to shit. It's the perimenopause stuff happening, but it's so bad. I know. See? Oh. Okay. Performance
It's
anxiety.
out of the Ziploc bag.
Oh, should I take it out?
It's in performance.
It's in performance. It's happening, guys. It's
So
happening.
Megan may need to hold her little penis while she explains
The
something.
performance anxiety, narrating deadlines, like the hurry up, like I can generate a lot of crisis. Actually, there's another whole topic I want to talk about on that, maybe for next time, but I can think I need to lay down. I'm exhausted. I don't want to, but then my second thought will be, I got to like generate like momentum so I can generate crisis really fast. Like, let's go. We got to work on this. I do it to myself, performance anxiety. Accusations, I can start to build accusations of someone else's agenda and I'm completely making it up. But it happens really quick for me. I'm assuming somebody's thinking XYZ, somebody else is thinking that. And I can actually, I wrote it here, I can infect someone with my nerves. Like there's all these like things that are happening kind of in my automatic. I'm trying to bucket them so I can understand them a little bit more. I put empathy in disguise, like my worry. I can be worried myself, but say, oh, I'm a little bit worried for Greg. He has that call with XYZ. I'm a little worried for him. Maybe I'm not worried for him, maybe a little bit, maybe 10%, but I'm more worried for myself, right? I want to make sure that goes well or whatever it might be, but I can imply that I'm worried about someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other ones, comparison. I do this a lot, comparison. I might compliment Charlie. I'm like, God, your stomach, your abs are looking good. What I'm really saying is I feel shitty about myself right now. Like it's not a genuine compliment. This makes me look really bad. Sorry, I don't do this. How bad is it making me look? I'm not that. I'm actually. I'm just sharing kind of like these are when at my worst, like it's happening without me realizing. A compliment, I'm like, oh, that's a compliment to you. But if I'm doing it in a way that
I use the
criticizing myself,
example
that's
of
not
like saying, "Oh my God, you have no wrinkles."
yeah, I'll
right.
do that.
So that's a compliment to that person, but what's
I'm
hidden underneath
it's
is
myself.
shit.
Yeah.
I have a lot of wrinkles, and I don't like that
Yeah.
about myself.
Right.
But it comes out as, "Oh my God, like
Mhm.
you're so amazing," and that's
Mhm.
not what that is.
Yeah.
There's all these hidden forms. I think we can go into this like
Yeah.
in like levels more, but kind of working on the system as you build it and work on it more, and we'll find more examples. I feel it's like an important place to recognize how many different creative ways we do this,
Yeah.
and how many places and almost in our automatic and not realizing what it's doing to keep either generating fear, right, which will make it harder to actually make good judgment calls,
Yeah.
or generate frustration, which makes it harder to make good judgment calls. I think this is the last thing.
This is the last thought. So if one way to stop the bad thinking, the things you want to stop, cinching it is one thing. Now we have our penis, we can cinch it. But another way to distract yourself. So I did this the other day. I thought I was distracting myself when I saw something I didn't like on my way to drop my son at school, come here. So I thought, oh, distract myself, listen to a song I like a way to get off the topic, which is true. You can do that. But another really great form of distraction, I think is even better, is actually gratitude as a distraction towards your teammate. So by the time I get in here, gratitude in general, right? Gratitude activates dopamine, serotonin, reduce cortisol. It's great. You can't actually be angry. You can't be criticizing. You can't have, when you're thinking and grateful for somebody or something, you can't have all those negative things flowing through. So I think we all know this, but to actually combine it with gratitude towards a teammate, especially if you're on your way to work. I mean, this is not like if you wake up Saturday morning, I don't think you need to do that, but like gratitude towards your team so that when you're on your way in, you're already thinking of these positives. What to put it in?
This was the actual one you sent. And
Oh.
it's interesting how gratitude can train your brain to search for safety versus the opposite is you're actually scanning for threats. And the key insight here is that without repping this practice, the mind is drifting towards stress.
Yeah.
It's drifting towards scanning
Yeah.
for danger and threats and uncertainty, even the whole like, oh my God.
And think about it this way. I mean, this might sound like dramatic, like high school kind of stuff, but I feel like we're wired to look for maybe the bad. And like you said, the old way of teammates, you're looking for the bad in your teammate, whether you realize it or not, like their bad judgment or whatever. But if you come in thinking gratitude for them, you're not even going to think about them you're thinking about the mission. You're actually going to have better and more thoughts and focus on the mission. It's kind of like high school. It's so funny. My son Brendan is in this like a school that focuses on the arts, and dance is the art that he picked. And he's got like a 2-hour, sometimes a dance class, and he's starting to hate it because they make you group in small groups or pick a team. Pick a few kids to dance with. It's like being on the playground every day where you're hoping somebody picks you or you pick them. And so it's creating so much drama for him in that class to the point where this child does not like school. He hates math. He said to me the other day, Mom, I like math more than dance right now. And I thought, how is that even possible? And it's because there's no drama in math. He's sitting down and he's in a class and they're helping whatever. In the dance, he's dealing with kind of the politics and the drama and the social anxiety of mixing up the groups and stuff like that. So I feel like, when you're focused on the mission, it feels good. You're like, and you're thinking good things about your teammate. And if you can have authentic conversations with your teammate, you just get the work done. You feel good about making progress towards the mission, not, I think sometimes in high schools and schools, you're focused on like, what the girl you don't like, the guy that didn't say this, you just get caught up versus when you're focused in your classroom, sometimes it feels really good. You're like, I'm just working on getting better and smarter and stronger and all of that. But I think that happens at work in a really unfortunate way. I do this where I'll think, oh, this isn't going right. Let me think of all the ways Charlie screwed that up, all the ways that I shouldn't have listened to Charlie. And it's like 28 years. I'm like, 10 years ago, we shouldn't have made that choice. Like it happens really fast. And I think I'm walking in a good mood maybe. And no, I've like already thought of a few things that I wasn't able to cinch, and it's playing in the back of my mind more than I realized. So it just is not going to make my brain flow. I'm not going to be thinking good things about what to do in the mission. I'm not going to be looking to X out the bad things that are happening and add more green. I mean, good luck, like with all that kind of negative stuff swirling around. So
I don't know if anybody from chat, I'm leaving the slides up. I'm happy to jump into any slide. If you just call out the number, if you can see it on your screen, I can dive in. But I don't know if anybody online, if you had any questions, you could put it in the chat or you can just unmute. I just realized I'm surrounded by a bag of dicks, so I'm like trying to cover this up. But like,
why don't you put them?
No.
I'll put them over here.
Yeah, I'll put it in here. So no, this is for everybody after. You can pass it around.
Can't wait.
No, we'll do it after because they'll get distracted. They won't listen to the questions. Anybody online? And you want to unmute? Any questions? Things that resonated most? Things that are most?
I think somebody was waiting to unmute. Caitlin, I think. If Caitlin is still here, you can go ahead and unmute. Now is the time. If you're here, Caitlin.
Sure. Thank you. This was going back to the slide with the 2 triangles.
The 2 triangles, yeah. Let's see.
This one.
Yes. Go ahead.
Is this interpretation kind of accurate? I kind of see the left triangle as a like perfectionism, where you get really stymied and you just can't move forward. Whereas the right triangle is what I call just do the damn thing. Like just put something there, progress over perfection, work with what you have and improve what you have. It's so much easier to work with something than nothing.
So can I answer that in maybe a slightly nuanced way? So first, I like this notion of, remember, life is messy now. So which means perfectionism almost is like one of the worst strategies. We can have an ideal, like we talked about Eden, the Garden of Eden. You can have a vision of what perfect you want, but you have to be able to accept that that's not real. Life is messy. And now I say this with when you say do the damn thing, my first reaction was, a lot of us think of it one time. When I think about do the damn thing, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So just fire a shot, do the damn thing. But I want you to think instead, like, imagine in any choice, I have to go and commit to something at least 3 times, maybe even 100 times. Now that sets a different tone. So it's not like a lot of us can do the damn thing once. And then you might be like, now I regret doing it. I should have been more thoughtful. Then you have someone pointing out, did you think about these negative red things where you took a step in that pile of shit? And you're like, oh my God, I should have been more thoughtful. So then you kind of quickly went from this one-time courage to now I'm not going to be.
Yeah.
Versus the notion of committing. I'm going to commit to this choice to making this work 3 times. 100 times. Imagine the notion when the muscle gets big, you start to realize, wait, I can make it work. That notion of it is in my agency, in my abilities to move and make anything work, any relationship, any project. So it goes beyond the do the damn thing once. And sometimes it might take that to fire a shot. But the speed that you're looking to then adjust and fire another shot, adjust and fire another shot, that's that choice on the right. When I drew the messier version, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it work. It's choosing empowerment repeatedly. Versus the left side, it's like, I'm still trying to decide. Should I commit? Should I not? Should I even commit once? Should I commit anything? And the notion of we're lacking the muscle to be able to look at messy, look at uncertainty, and literally choose to say, I'm going to make this one work.
Thank you.
Made me think this morning, sorry, but we can talk about it later if you want. But the idea of visceral drafting, when we talked about visceral drafting, the idea that you could actually just, when you build the skills, all the skills at first dial down or kind of cinch the bad, all these things you need to get kind of like dialing down the sugar before you add solution. But the visceral drafting is a skill.
Which is why I wrote judgment is visceral. Decision making is logical. We're lacking, and so we can lose the muscle of actually applying the very human thing, which is being visceral. And so just thinking like this morning, I was walking over to work. I saw these 2 guys walking right behind me, and they were little like talking super loud. But this one guy was like, I went to an AI conference, and these parents were coming up saying, these 6 to 12-year-old kids, I let them, use AI. And the whole play with AI so you can get more familiar faster.
Yeah.
And the guy's walking is like laughing and criticizing, saying that's going to work out well, right? Like hallucination, and you're taking 6-year-old, 7-year-old children and let them just kind of blindly follow AI.
Yeah.
And the notion of kind of what needs to occur before you do that is, can they hold their own? As in hold their own thought, hold their own opinion, stick by it, defend it, keep arguing it.
Yeah.
And even to me, those who are best at this, they can literally fight with AI. And I mean fight. Like whatever result they get back, nope, I don't believe it. Keep challenging. Imagine learning the muscle. This is not about being stubborn, but learning the muscle to hold your point of view and look for the nuances where you're going to stick to your point of view. Once you learn it, you can then learn to apply it correctly. The problem is without having that muscle, we're almost like weak-minded, like blobs.
Yeah.
Like overwrite my head and my thoughts or whatever you think I should be thinking.
But which brings up another topic. Sorry, the confidence and humility. You have to have the confidence to fire a shot, as in your judgment, share it. But then the humility immediately after to be like, what am I getting wrong? And those two things, it feels like, wait, what? Confidence right now, here, right now, and then almost in the same breath, reminded.
And what the opposite of that is dictum. So instead of confidence, it's like an arrogance of their right. And then when you're pointed out wrong, you're now acting like a victim of why you made that mistake, right? I'm so frustrated. That's why I'm so scared. I'm like justifying what I did, which is a nuanced difference than kind of the notion of having a point of view and literally not inauthentic, believing in it, and then looking for additional reality data points that would say that I'm wrong, right? And then after enough, you'll be like, I'm going to change my mind, right? These are the reasons why I thought this, but this is actually better. And being light, agile, and flexible like that. Well, other questions, either online or here in person? All right, go ahead.
So I love how you started this with like the military grounding, like that's the way to eliminate cortisol and embrace like uncertainty. And then what you were talking about, like the amount of energy that AI uses, I actually didn't realize what the disparity was between humans, and that's insane to me. And what a lot of people don't realize is like, yes, we can use our LLMs to find different information, but they are sorting through trillions of data points. When we have this decision making, like clarity and context will eliminate, like most LLMs outside of AI Coach are very people pleasing. Like they're like, they want you to use them. They're going to tell you whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, so what I heard was like, when we know what we want, when we're very clear about it, we partner with AI to get a more efficient, like in terms of energy, but in terms of like outcome as well. And then, so what I took was like, what a beautiful way to ground, through gratitude, like the military practice of like cleaning the gun or whatever, like I could have gratitude. Because criticizing is so easy because it avoids shame. So when I'm pointing out what Hector did wrong, I don't have to look at what I did wrong. I mean, you're just next to me. There's no one. And so when we're coming from a place of like grounded gratitude, where we're not living in cortisol, but we're also creating psychological safety around like, we're in this together.
Yeah, less hostility, right? The opposite of the psychological is hostility. It generates hostility.
And you can mess up and it's okay because I have your back. So my synapses are firing a lot. This is like really powerful stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had a couple of just kind of quick reactions. One is I always say to think of AI as like a pack of interns, not even an intern, because one intern could actually be really good. A pack of interns, right? They're almost always like kind of Lord of the Flies, and they'll kind of blob their way and get stuff done, but like usually no judgment, poor judgment, right? Pack of interns. I think the place you get to almost, and excuse my French here, but think of AI as your bitch, right? I'm just going to bitch it around to do what I need. But like what I need, what I would like, and the notion of it has tremendous power to give you data, information, resources. But like, if I don't first have an opinion of what I want or what I need, then you have to realize who's the bitch right now. You just became the bitch to AI, and AI is like, well, you want to ask me this question next? You're like, sure. How about this next question? You're like, sure. Before you know it, like you're actually feeding your brain as if you're going to class and study, but you're not prompting it. It's prompting you to keep digging in a direction.
It's atrophying the muscle that you're encouraging us to build.
Yeah. And now the part that's nuanced though, in the grounded in, gratitude, there was a slight nuance where like, just recognizing first, remember, not the solution, but like kind of our mind is drifting. It's like the ice cream. If you know, like it's easier to eat ice cream in large bites and big bites, you might take smaller bites. It's amazing just that noticing does a difference. I was going to put this other thing in where there was someone who like tested living in Bali and not using phones. And what they found was they were able to just slow down the thought. And this notion of the old day danger was physical. So fast response is saving your life. Nowadays, most danger is psychological, it's mental, which meant that responding right away is not necessarily the right thing, but to train your mind to slow down, it's counterintuitive. You have to first share your judgment, which is really fast, and train it and see it before you can get to a true place where you can say, good thing, bad thing, I really don't know. And that's an elite skill you build up to. You don't get there overnight. So I put this thing about how, dysfunctional teams happen when you combine the things that we don't see, but that was for another class.
I'm saying share fast judgment because eventually you'll get to a place where you can slow it down, but you have to first do it fast. That's just like the counter.
Well, no, I'd say do it fast meaning no, you already are.
You are.
Your judgment is already occurring.
You're just not.
You're not able to see it, so you can't improve what you can't see, what you aren't exposing. So how to get to a place where everyone's overused the term psychological safety. The problem with judgment when it hasn't been exposed, it's really dumb. Like it's really bad. Your logic is awful. You're completely biased on an emotional level. So like you will see as you do it, logical waiting, you're going to get crushed. So then what's the next thing to do? I need to defend myself. I'm going to explain how scared I was, and that's why I did it. And that's how you become a dick to them, right? You first are a dick, and then you're like a victim. And to realize, okay, but being a victim is kind of how you have to go through the rite of passage. Go through it. So don't do it on the internet. Don't do it in front of everyone. Do it at someone that actually will give you the space to rep these things, right? Look silly. It's like going to work out, and maybe first time you do squats, you start farting or something. Like I'm saying, go work out with someone you know that won't be like, holy shit, never again. It's like, I'm just making it up, but like probably not the best first date thing to do, right? Like I'm going to go eat a meal and then let's go work out together. And you're like, wow, like not the best person. Like a friend is going to forgive you more.
So
Good.
when you're talking about waiting the judgment, it's like it's but waiting the judgment early on. In new environments, it's probably good to have the light weight on your judgment so you can change your mind rapidly.
I would actually, no, keep going.
So yeah, so it's a question in a way. It's like, would you weight it lighter? Then
I see.
I see that person, I see how he is now, he's talking to me, and I'm going to now validate my initial judgment. But I have a bad feeling about that person,
Yes.
but let me see.
So here's the part, like that's, if you want to train your intuition, your judgment, the most important ingredient of it is being authentic, being yourself, the truth. Get to your absolute truth, not the publicly judged, performance evaluated, but your own truth. Judgment is very sharp.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't exposed and repped it, it is going to be sharp. And the idea that you're actually, the first versions are so open-minded and so like kind of good thing, bad thing, I'm evaluating you and human beings is actually not likely to be true. You might have the brain that's so unique, but it's likely not to be true. And so and think of the more times we just kind of held back. And then as soon as they turn around or you go to your special, you're like, fucking hate that person. Like that was the truth. And as you do it, like you can get good at saying, you know what? And I've done this to a lot of people that when you get more muscled and comfortable, I tell them, honestly, my first, like as soon as I saw you, I was like, I fucking hated you, right? I'll tell you the reasons why. But as I got to know you, I'm like, you know what? I like you a lot more. And I can tell you the reasons why. And that's powerful because this whole nuances, the person can explain to you your first impressions that made me not like you, but then the nuances that I picked up, which means I'm also listening and paying attention to not just what you say, but everything about you. And based on that, yeah, I changed my mind, right? I could go from one extreme to another. Okay. And then there's also everything in between. It's not always like them or hate them, but
okay, so that's on people. Now the judgment for should I do this or not do this, and there's that visceral thing which is I don't want to. But it's a good thing that you ought to do. Is that you force yourself.
So when I hear that, you're trying to rationalize, and what I'm saying is that's decision making. That's the logical brain. But to be able to say, you know, my instinct, my visceral is do it.
Okay.
And then you explain the reasons why.
Okay.
But doesn't mean that just because you say that and explain, you don't have to actually go do it. You can explore what you're going to do. And that's what they call sense making.
It's interesting about that. Charlie built a brand over years that if he says, I'm going to do it, he's going to do it.
Right.
And as a result of that, he gets the feedback aggressively of whatever that critical feedback might be. Have you thought of this, thought of that? He'll get that because people believe when he says it, he's going to do it. I think a lot of us will say, my instinct is do it. And people are like, I'm really going to do it. So you might not actually get a lot of critical feedback. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And remember, when you said because he's built a brand, he's going to do it, that sounds like performative and fake. That's not
you
true.
actually no,
Right?
I'm saying you mean it. But you mean it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like that notion of it's amazing if you can be consistent. Not only are you good for yourself, you're amazingly easier to work with as a person, a teammate, as a friend. It's the inconsistency, which happens because of second guessing and all the stuff.
Yeah, the maybes.
Like it's almost like, holy shit, I don't know to believe you or not. Every time you say something, I'll come see you tomorrow or work out with you. And you're like, you show up sometimes you don't. I have no fucking idea what to do. So I have to factor you out. And that's the bad place to get to.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting. I was just sorry, we can talk about this after if you want to, but like I was just thinking, Charlie, it makes sense that you you know, this idea of should I do this project or not? And now we start to like logic and rationalize it, which will end up kind of doing nothing in most cases because we just keep it in the maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I feel what you do, Charlie, a lot is you will share it more widely. So you get practiced at sharing it, say here, and then you might share it with a bigger group, and then you might share it with our whole audience. And there's initiatives and programs that we've intended to do, and you come out of the gate saying, this is what I want to do, and you share a lot. But then a few weeks later, I'm like, what? We're not doing that. What happened? New data points came in. And it might be a subtle data point. You're like, I don't know if this is the right time right now, right? And then, but I feel a lot of people don't want to do that because it feels like if I say I'm going to do it, I better follow through. So I'm not even going to share it because I want to make sure I can follow through on it, right? Versus no, if I share it, I'm going to get a reaction and feedback that will help me decide if this is going down the right path or it's not. I think most people have a lot of projects in the I don't know bucket.
The only tiny nuance in it is this. People focus on, so should I share it or should I not? I'm like, no, that's not the muscle you're lacking. You're lacking this orange box muscle.
The details.
The details and the nuances and the volume of it and how much actually is accurate or not. Like, and being able to take the exposing it and then letting others like hit, like contact sport your nuances. Because when you do that, you make better decisions. If you're able to do that faster, more real time, you're going to make better decisions. And coming back to the whole leadership is about making better choices faster. Why wouldn't we all want to do that? Right? Who wants to make better choices really slowly so you make so few in your life? Or who wants to make worse choices? We all want to make better choices faster. And the key to it is, yes, we will use AI and it's getting stronger and stronger. It's an absolute godsend of a tool. But the flip side that AI can't do, right? I mean, think about the efficiency of 12 watts versus 2.7. But 12 watts, if you look at like, who's like the best football player or the soccer player? What's his name?
Messi.
Yeah, Messi. They talk about the speed that his brain is applying judgment real time as he's moving down the field, anticipating the trajectory other people are on.
Yeah. I
mean, it's like, that's a rep skill. It's just a muscle is all it is. And it's not like, oh, he's so gifted because he was born and maybe fed some pizza bread early in the mornings or whatever it is. No, that's a rep muscle. It's breaking down the nuances of like, wait, that's how you train that muscle. But first and foremost, the 80%. Do you know what you're doing to wreck your ability to do it right? Like, this notion of human beings, they say, are so bad at change and hate change to the point where we like literally fight to all end in change. But we're also the most adaptable creatures that ever exist. But the reason we don't adapt is because we can't see and notice the bad we're doing that prevents the adaptation. Like that was the part, remember Peter Borman, this time we spent. We are wired to do the right thing. We're wired to even self-heal, mind and body. But we literally, when we don't know what the right thing is, like you can keep adding in the right solution, but you're doing so much damage that you're negating it all and then adding more on top. So the notion of kind of recognizing what that bad is. I come back to this thing, like, and I know this is easier because I'm using food as an example and whatnot, but you have to imagine a guy who became #1 in the world, family traditions and whatnot. Can you imagine the conversation with your mom and something like this? Are you kidding me? I made you, I fed you this stuff. And you're now spitting on our, Belgrade traditions, Serbian traditions, and this and that. Like you have to think how, and I'm sure he doesn't completely cut it out. Like you're going to eat your mom's cooking or die. Like there are elements that are there, but like it's harder than you realize. The noticing the bad is harder than you realize. One other thought here, or anybody online, or I can take one more if you want. No. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I had a thought around the sort of old teaming, and it made me think about how we're constantly looking for like almost like the opposites, so we know where it feels like it's so we know where we fit. And it just got me thinking more about sort of social structures and sort of how when we were sort of more primates and it was all about hierarchy and kind of like, okay, where do I fit? Like constantly. And it's almost, this thought of like, we just feels like that's constantly happening. like
Yeah.
trying to figure out where we fit. So I better not say anything that fucks it up, because otherwise I'll be like low down and I'll be, I won't be able to eat. I want to sort of almost be like vanilla or whatever. I don't know. It just made me think more about that, and I just don't know.
Oh,
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and kind of if when you're kind of certain as to where you fit, that's when you really don't give a shit, and you're okay just being yourself. But it's so I wonder, like, what has to happen first? There's like the muscle of learning how to not give a shit, unlock
Um,
like where I fit, or do the structures have to allow you to sort of go, don't worry, we don't care about, you kind of, or like, yeah, I'm sort of muddling up my words here, but does the social structure have to fit, or does the muscle have to fit? So what comes first? I guess it's a chicken and egg thing.
sorry, I'm looking for a slide. It's a totally different presentation, but I'm just going to pull it up so I can show you this. It's actually on our culture tour. It was pretty good. Give me 1 sec. The short end of the answer I know it sounds like a broken record here. The whole noticing the wrong. When I said you can't learn what you don't understand, it takes effort to understand even like what is wrong that I'm doing, what's in my automatic that I'm doing wrong. But it also takes time to understand like how it came about sometimes. And sometimes you can't fully explain it, but meaning some things it's not you. It's just that's the way the world worked, and the world did change.
Yeah.
The slide I'm trying to pull, like Laura knows it, so my computer's freezing.
It's so funny because Simon, it's a good question. I'm trying to think about this, and while Charlie was talking about that teaming part, it did make me think. Our slogan, our logo, our mission statement in the back of Charlie's shirt, and the implementation version is "Better Me plus Better You." And we've talked a lot about how that comes from the differences of Charlie and I. Better me being like take care of yourself, and then the better you is like help others. And the fact that you need both of them is what makes it very powerful. But I've always said it's not like I don't know how and cannot give to others, or Charlie doesn't know how to take care of himself, right? Like we can both do both, but like there is a part where we naturally balanced each other out, and we'll have to continue to do that like as a team, but we will naturally skew towards what the other person maybe isn't as good at. Like we morph to what the team needs, But that actually does take a level of awareness. That does take a level of
yeah. And you're coming at it from a thing of going, what does the team need versus like where do I fit?
Yes. What is the mission? Yeah. What does the team need? But what is the mission? Like, what's the?
And it was something that was said a couple of weeks ago, which was like, what's required of me now versus that kind of thing.
And if you think of this once again, even that last leadership practice of the beginner, that middle point, and then the mature.
Yeah.
There's a more beginner element to all of this. And so the first thing I was trying to look up is, the old org chart. It's a pyramid. It's a hierarchy. So where do I fit? That's literally how the world worked. To be able to do anything great, you had to mobilize an army of people. So there is naturally someone who's going to be better, more equipped on top than the middle tier, middle managers, all the way to the bottom. You needed the pyramid structure to rally the herd of people to go and get something big done. World changes.
Yeah.
One person solo with just at the fingertips of a phone can get done what 10,000 people could barely do. And you could do it like in an hour. Like you think about that kind of move. And suddenly it's like, wait, the entire pyramid is me now.
Yeah.
So imagine if you collapse that entire pyramid and say, wait, you are not only in charge as the leader, but you're also the doer. And you're the middle manager in between, like translating stuff too. So suddenly it's like, wait a sec, I'm not used to playing all the roles at once.
Right.
And that's how it's changed. And so my own kind of even what Jensen Huang, this is the most valued company in the world, right? The CEO is saying like the technical skills of the past no longer have much value. I mean, the value of it has gone to almost zero and is moving so fast. So then what's left? And it's not about like, oh my God, we got to figure out like the roles that now tech can't do. No. We are more powerful than the tech. 12 watts versus 2.7 billion. But it's a different kind of power. And the reason we're powerful is we're going to just use AI too.
Yeah.
Why would I be like, I'm going to arm wrestle with AI? It's about me versus, no. Don't be dumb. Use both.
Yeah.
It's like saying, we have cars. Why would I walk to Boston? Right? Like, or like, why not if I'm in a rush, fly? Like, why would you not use the tech that's available?
Yeah.
But you have to realize the skill is so like different than we're used to. This idea that first and foremost, in the pyramid, the leadership on top, you have to be able to decide.
Right.
You're reading the situation. That's the SA, right? Situational awareness or assessment. You have to then kind of strategize really rapidly, quickly, plan what to do. You have to go and get, am I right and wrong in my mental models and my assumptions? The speed of all of that. That is not a skill that we were taught in school, didn't need for most of us. And only the few at the very, very C-suite kind of may have repped this. Versus now we're all in the C-suite. And so it's like, okay, on one hand, that's pretty cool, empowering.
Yeah.
The other hand, it's like, all right, so I got to learn new skills. So I'm a beginner in this. But it starts with, what damage am I doing so I'll never make the C-suite, right? What am I doing so I can't think straight? I can't think calmly. Anything that's unknown and dangerous, which is like everything now, my mind falls apart.
Yeah.
And so this notion of, before you get to the DGAF, right? Don't give a fuck energy. It's like, there's a part where, on one hand, what I like about the beginner mindset, why they call it ignorance and fire, there are two sides who tend to have the don't give a fuck energy. It's both ends of the spectrum, meaning the beginners have a lot of don't give a fuck energy because they just don't know.
Yeah.
Once you have enough experience and you're repped enough at succeeding, you can also build that same energy. In between, it's really messy. Right? In between comes the, oh my God, I'm so self-aware. I'm so self-conscious. I'm so negative spiraling. There are days I'm good, the days I'm bad. It's like, you're just like complete psycho. And to realize that's normal.
Yeah.
That's how you grow, right? It's like seeing a teenager and you're like, oh my God,
they're so awkward.
you are so awkward and so messed up. Versus you're like, oh, you're just being a teenager.
Their limbs are longer than their
No, like they're just being a teenager.
Right.
You know how easy it is to be like, oh my God, you're being a teenager. As opposed to, I'm going to logically argue with this teenager why they're being so ridiculous. And then you realize,
a teenager too.
yeah, and then suddenly you become a teenager, and then you call it Congress and government and whatever.
Yeah.
There we go. Right? Teenage battles going on all day long.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it was not my words. The Harvard researcher said the average adult is literally the
emotional intelligence as adults. We all have the emotional intelligence of a certain age. And this is in the research from Harvard. Our emotional intelligence. Does anybody have a guess? What age is the average adult in their emotional intelligence?
15.
16 years old.
Yeah, I would say
16.
16.
That is, you just walked through here. That one, our emotional intelligence is at his level.
He's running the country. That's literally what he's doing. And the world, right? It's not even just one part. It's like
really good stuff.
all of them, which is like,
Question for you, but
Yes.
is there a difference between genders as well? Because I heard that women mature
Yes, that's
faster
true.
than- Is that,
What
is
do
that
you
any truth
think?
to that?
like,
Yeah.
I guess I look at it as teenagers are idiots. So like, does it really matter the difference? They're still teenagers,
Yeah.
right? So like, well, that person's running out like they're 17 versus
might
they're
be
running out like
17.
14.
Yeah.
I'm like, you shouldn't have the power to run a country, right? And it meaning like, we got to grow up here a little bit, become more adult-like. And so what does that mean? And a lot of it is literally learning to hone first my own judgment, my own opinion, before then going to play contact sports to say, I now want to hear someone else's opinion, because your opinion, truthfully against mine, can lead to a better decision. That's the place you want to get to.
Okay, cool.
Not like, let's have a debate club and see who can win, right? Like, which is kind of unfortunately what's happening too much everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's like, on one hand, it's fun to watch the debates and whatnot, but you're like, this is real life. My life is getting messed up based on teenagers debating, right? So it's like, how do we fix it? The part I keep saying is, but in history, it shows up in the history books. Every 100 years, everything we're seeing is actually shows up. Like, it is so dysfunctional. You're thinking, how is this possible? No, this is what happens before change occurs. So on one hand, it's kind of the most exciting time like you could ever be around. Like, all right.
Just
So
your dicks.
yeah, I don't know what we will teach next week, but for those of you who want a little dictum dick, it's on Amazon. It's $1. I think you have to order 6 at a time, so you can find $5, right? But if not, but we have plenty of content. So we will see you guys next week
See you next
for
week.
Leadership in Practice.
Yes.